Make sure my phone's on quiet. It's not going to ring loud. Can you make sure the TV's muted, babe? Or off?
What? You cut me off on it? I don't know if you guys saw the red live button, but you were communicating with each other while you were listening to the intro. I am Paul Finkelstein with the OMG Talk Small Business Podcast, hashtag Alignable, because I network on Alignable too, not just on LinkedIn or in-person meetings. We're going to meet a very special guest. Her name is Veronica Buckingham. I'll say, how are you today, Veronica?
Happy and healthy. So many blessings to count, and very delighted to be a guest on OMG. Thank you, Paul.
It's great to have you here, Veronica. I know that I'm talking to whiz-bang entrepreneurs, small business owners, workaholic professionals, and guests. So again, everybody, welcome to the OMG Talk Show and Small Business Podcast. You know, our guest is Veronica. Let's start from the very beginning and let there be light. The very beginning actually is an easy question right now to get started for Veronica, which is, where were you born and raised?
In Miami, Florida. I was born in Miami, Florida, and I grew up there with all my brothers and sister, and grew up playing tennis. I went to Killian High School. I love the tropical climate, although thanks to my husband, I've traveled many, many places, but I love South Florida, and Miami is my birthplace.
Excellent. Good to know as well. You might relate to the people that are from your hometown as well. Let's see. So speak about your family and your upbringing and education. Why don't you describe or digress into any of those? Education, upbringing, or family?
My upbringing, again, was a happy, fun one for the most part, playing outside with my brothers, going to the park, playing lots of sports. My father was a natural athlete. My father was Don. My mom is Betty. And I enjoyed just being outside with my brothers. When I was 8, I came to learn about tennis, and my father taught me how to play. And I loved the sport so much. I didn't graduate from being a brownie to a Girl Scout. It was school and practicing tennis, aspiring to be a pro one day. I went to Killian High School and graduated from there. I was rather an introverted person, but I was on the Spanish Honor Society and the tennis team, and I had good grades. And I lettered in tennis at Killian High School, and I also played at Miami-Dade College on a scholarship, a tennis scholarship. So tennis has rewarded me nicely.
Wow, I did hear tennis a couple of times there. One little tip also to note is a lot of my guests do this as well, is keep in mind to look up occasionally at your camera, even though you might have some notes or something like that, like I do as well. So remember to look up at that camera and not down at the camera that's on your desk, which doesn't exist.
Thank you, Bill.
But what about other hobbies, or digress into tennis or favorite activities that interest you? It sounds like tennis is your favorite activity. Anything else? Or delve into that a little bit.
So many things, fun things that I enjoyed as a child, things that made me happy as a child. I find therapeutic and relaxing as a grown-up, flying kites, writing letters. I have several pen pals of all ages, riding bikes with my husband, just playing outside. I love to swim laps in the pool, read a book, just happy, healthy, relaxing things. We do have 12 kites, so we love to fly them. I like to play with the bubbles at the beach. I'm not much of a sunbather, but I enjoy swimming laps in the pool. So just fun, relaxing things like that. But tennis, I don't consider to be a hobby. I'm always practicing with my team, and I guess there's muscle memory there. I play competitively, but I do other things to stay fit, like Pilates and yoga and swimming and walking. Yeah.
Fantastic. So tell us, are you married? Have children that you know of?
Yes, I'm very happily married to Stephen, close to 27 years now, and I am so grateful to be the stepmom to his 3 lovely daughters, Shauna, Nora, and Patricia, and they're all grown and happy and healthy in their chosen professions and happily in love and with beautiful children. We have 4 grandchildren, and most of them are among my pen pals. So we just have fun, Stephen and I are really grateful to have found one another, and we are very happily married. Yeah, 27 years almost. So.
Where do you and your family live? Do you all live in the same state, or are you spread out across the country like my wife and I are?
Oh, good question. Stephen and I both come from very large families, and his is all mostly from the Pacific Northwest, California, Seattle, Oregon. A lot of his loved ones in our Buckingham family are in Alaska. My family's from the South. My mother was from Georgia, and she lives there still. And I have 4 brothers in that area, and a brother in Orlando, and a sister in Tennessee, and a brother here in South Florida. Stephen and I have a home in Fort Lauderdale, a pretty condominium on a branch of the New River. And it's a nice place to live, but also to welcome all our loved ones. We love loved ones to come and visit us. So Fort Lauderdale is our home.
So we got a chance to know you a little touch about Veronica and your hubby. But speak about your work history and how did you find out about being an Aflac representative?
Well, out of junior college, I was with again not making it to that upper echelon of tennis as I aspired to do, but that's okay. I learned so much from being a tennis player about practice and the importance of being a team player and so many things, devotion to something. But I was working in retail, mostly representing Estee Lauder, and I loved her philosophy. I loved all that she created, and I appreciated that. But leading a team of beauty advisors and working in the retail environment, and after 10 years or so, I found I wanted to get out of retail and do something else, a little more structured, not so much every weekend. And I looked in the classifieds. I know young people don't look in the classifieds for work anymore, but I found an opportunity in the marine industry that intrigued me, and I was welcomed to be a receptionist at a local high-end marine industry company. And I learned so much about the marine industry. And things changed, though, in 2008, 2009, as most Americans will know. There's a lot of change in the economy. But I was welcomed in the mid-90s to come to work at the company called Simrad, which is a Norwegian manufacturer of sophisticated marine electronics. So I got a nice referral from the owner of the smaller marine industry company to work at Simrad. And I was there for, more than 10 years, overseeing a smaller facility of that Norwegian company, and they manufactured sophisticated marine electronics. So I was the office manager, but I oversaw the build out to a larger facility. I planned and executed their world conference as part of my tenure there, where we had 100 delegates from all over the world come with their spouses. So it was a 3-day event. I did some HR work. I managed the facility. So I was kind of that go-to person. People called me the glue that kept that company together. But in the close to 2008, 2009, when companies were restructuring or laying people off, I fell into that also and found myself working for a smaller marine electronics company. Again, I didn't realize the extent to which I was building centers of influence and developing relationships, but I appreciated the industry, and I was welcome to work at Power and Motor Yacht magazine and again see the industry from a newer perspective. And they went through some restructuring, bankruptcy, moving their facility also. So once again, I found myself, like many Americans, without a job, but I didn't fret about it. I reevaluated. I looked at my education, my personality. Stephen said, play a lot of daytime tennis and find something else you'll enjoy. Take your time and find something nice. So I did. I went to a career fair one day with the hope of leaving my updated resume with 2 particular companies. But in fact, I met a nice young man who represents, he still does, we are good friends. He represented Aflac at that time at that career fair, and I left my resume with him, and I told him about all my skills. And he said, we're not really looking for those kind of skills. We're looking for outside salespeople. And I don't consider myself a salesperson necessarily, but I learned about Aflac, and I thought I could use my skills and my work history and education and personality and do well.
So how long have you been with Aflac?
Uh, this summer, June will make 15 years. So I've enjoyed it so much, and most of my longtime marine industry clients became my AFLAC clients. Again, there I was building centers of influence that would help me when I became an AFLAC representative, and I wasn't aware of that while I was doing it. I was just trying to provide good service and represent SIMRAD nicely.
Is that a 9 to 5 kind of career?
That was, but AFLAC is definitely not. AFLAC is definitely not. It's a 1099 position, so I am, and my husband is too. I recruited him about 9 years ago. We met at SIMRAD, incidentally. We met on the phone, so that was a big bonus for me working at SIMRAD. Stephen and I were colleagues, and we worked over the phone via fax and email of 3,000 miles apart. But we were so happy when we met in person, and within a year we were married. But no, AFLAC is not a 9 to 5 career. We have to have a good work ethic. We have to be very motivated. We do things on the weekends and in the evenings to prepare for the next day. And there are occasions when I could be late at night seeing potential clients at a business that has 3 shifts, or sometimes when loved ones come to visit, like our middle daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandkids were here for a week recently. So we took time off and made that our vacation as well. So we put in the hours before we leave the door preparing. It requires a lot of prospecting and networking and following up, but definitely not a 9 to 5.
Has the duck made it easier to market since the 90s? What did they do without the duck before the 90s?
They had very little name recognition, and I know the story has changed over the years, but as I understand it, the Amos family who founded AFLAC said we need more name recognition, and they hired marketing people to come up with something. As I have heard it, the letters AFLAC, American Family Life Assurance with an A, company out of Columbus, Georgia, were put together, and someone left the room in frustration saying, AFLAC, AFLAC, it sounds like a duck. So someone said that's what it will be, but it definitely increased name recognition. And he's cute. He's a spokes duck. He's fun. Everyone seems to love the duck, no matter their age. We like to pass little keychain ducks out or 6-inch quacking ducks out. This nice duck goes with us to presentations, and he quacks as well.
So Aflac is basically disability insurance. Is that right?
It is not. Disability is among the policies that we offer, but we offer an accident plan and a cancer plan. There are about a dozen plans that we offer, and they're all individual. They're indemnity plans that pay money directly to a policyholder if he or she is sick or a loved one is sick or injured. But certainly the disability plan is a popular one. We can pay people about 60% of their annual salary while they're away on disability if their doctor recommends they take time off.
Yeah. So tell us, Aflac's about helping people. Is that among your motivations, or is that something else that motivates you? Get up every day, jump out of bed.
That's definitely my motivations and my husband's as well. In fact, he's retired from working in the satellite communications and maritime industry. And years ago, he wanted to know how he could help me, because after 7 or 8 years, my business was building so nicely. And he wanted to know how he could help. So he got a license, a 215 life, health, and variable annuities license from the state of Florida, and also was appointed by AFLAC. So he has served mostly as an administrator for me, but together we like to definitely help people. He takes the lead on claims, and it's a very heartwarming feeling to be able to call someone and let them know that you'll walk them through the claim process if necessary, or visit them in the hospital, or certainly when that money from AFLAC is going to be direct deposited to their checking account or savings account or mailed to them in the form of a check. That's very rewarding. very rewarding.
So, could you elaborate on the ways that Aflac helps their policyholders?
Certainly, we pay quickly. Aflac doesn't do a lot of other things. There aren't too many ancillary products there. We have products and we pay quickly. And it's not magic. Some people wonder how can Aflac pay $7 million in claims every day, but it's not magic. It's the law of large numbers. There are millions of people, over 60 million people around the world who have Aflac policies. So certainly Steve and I have 4 of them for ourselves. But the money's there. So when people need to file a claim, particularly Stephen and I love to be of service. We are not aggressive in our sales, but we are very eager to help people with the claims process, eager to help people get their wellness claims filed. We like to be accommodating. Our products are voluntary. Aflac is the pioneer in supplementary or voluntary benefits, but we like to educate people. Once a business owner has a meeting with us and we customize a plan for that person and his or her business, and we get the green light from the employer to present Aflac to the employees, we simply like to educate them, let them know how the plans can help them. We ask them to think about their health and the health of anyone they wish to cover, meaning a spouse or dependent children, while we explain the plans. And we say, think about which ones are right for you. Don't try to get everything, but also take a look at these low rates that through your employer you will benefit from, and look closely at your budget and make sure that you ask us all the questions so we can help you make an informed decision. And since they're voluntary, sometimes people might say no thank you, or it's not for me. But it's fun when we do a presentation and someone says, oh, thank you. I thought Aflac was car insurance, or I thought it was health insurance, and I already have health insurance. So it's nice to see the light bulbs go off. It's nice to hear the questions and let people learn about it, and in a no pressure kind of manner.
Makes me want to ask you though, if a person already has health insurance,
Mm-hmm.
could he or she enroll in Aflac also?
Absolutely. Aflac doesn't coordinate with any other provider. Health insurance is good to have, it's important to have, but health insurance pays doctors and hospitals for us, whereas Aflac was founded on the idea of putting money directly directly into the hands of our policyholders, because we can negotiate payment plans with doctors and hospitals, but people can't do that necessarily with the landlord or with regard to their mortgage payment or car payment. People don't want to incur a late fee if it's 30 days and they have not paid their certain bills. So when people get money from Aflac, they can use it any way that they want to. And people do let us know, thank you, I made my truck payment and I paid the rent. I can go back to work on Monday. Or thank you, I don't have health insurance, so this money helps me because I can make payment plans with the hospital, but this money's going to help me get the rent paid or pay those credit card bills. So it just puts money in people's pocket. Ideally, people won't have any sickness or injury or diagnosis of cancer, and they file their wellness and they get a little bit of money from Aflac throughout the year for maintaining their health. But we see people do get diagnosed with cancer, or they do have a trip and fall accident, or they need to file claims. They need to have Aflac.
So tell us about a typical work day. What's that like for you guys?
They vary. There's nothing really typical. I primarily focus on networking. I do prospect, or some people might call it cold calling. But in my world, it's not necessarily cold because I do a lot of research. In fact, Stephen does that for me, research on companies, so that I'm not walking in not knowing who to ask for. I know who the business owner is ahead of time. I know what companies in that vicinity already have Aflac. I'm always polite and professional in my approach. And it could be a day where I'm only prospecting. It could also be a day where I'm going to do a presentation. For example, on June 11th, we'll be doing a presentation to 31 employees, half of whom speak Spanish primarily, half speak English. And we will present in the morning, and then the following 2 days later, we'll go back to enroll. So And some of those employees will be happy to sign up. Some maybe haven't made up their mind yet, or some maybe want to say no thank you and sign a waiver, but we're ready for all of the responses. But I could be doing a presentation, an enrollment, I could be prospecting, I could be in a Zoom networking call, I could be at a live networking event. Stephen and I like to participate in two different Marine Industry Association networking groups and a Thursday morning networking. And gosh, if I want to go play tennis on a Thursday, I'll go do that. But I do focus primarily on how can I build my book of business, but how can I extend goodwill and be of good service to all of our policyholders. We know that people will sign a premium deduction authorization form, or someone who enrolls directly, not through an employer, will sign a similar form, but we want to be in touch with them. We want them to know that at any time they can call or text or email us. We want to be available to provide service. And we know people don't get sick or hurt Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So policyholders of mine and Stevens know very well they can contact us any time of day or night, even holidays, and we'll help them. So that means a lot, building that trust, extending that goodwill every day in whatever capacity I'm working out there.
Now, there are many different ways of marketing that small business owners partake in, like networking events.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you guys do over 20% of your time, or less than 20%, or somewhere in there, for going to in-person networking events? How do you go about growing your business?
25% at least, as we both worked in the marine industry. Stephen over 40 years, me, about half that. We've developed relationships. So we are members of the Marine Industry Association of South Florida. We are members of Triton. So we like to participate in those events. We are members of a smaller networking group that was founded almost 30 years ago that meets every Thursday. And that one is more like family. It's structured in such a way that there's only one person representing each industry in that group, but we are loyal to one another, and we're very much like a family, very dear friends. And it was from that group that I received the referral to speak to the HR director at the company where we will be offering AFLAC, where they have 31 employees. So I think being a giver, being someone who's always on the lookout for referrals for other people, whether it's our realtor friends or our accountant friends or our person who does window treatments, always listening carefully for other people to say what they need, so I can say, oh, we know a person, we have a contact for you. Trying to be mindful of what's a good referral for other people, it guides us every day also.
Could anybody enroll in AFLAC, by the way?
Anyone can, up to age 70 or younger. Older ages, if they do so through an employer, they must be at least 18 years old. And we have products for individuals, because some people don't have AFLAC at work. Or one lady said, I work for myself, but I am concerned about getting a diagnosis of cancer. It happened to my sister or other loved ones. So she just wanted to protect herself and enrolled in a cancer policy directly. But yes, pretty much anyone.
Is AFLAC's open enrollment period every fall like health insurance?
No, that's a great question. We start an account on the first of the next month. So if we have an enrollment in June, their policies will all have a July 1st start date. So that's among one of the things that I do every day, following up with accounts whose open enrollment is upcoming, so that I can speak to the decision maker. We call those re-DMs or re-decision makers, just to have a conversation and make sure that what we've been offering is sufficient, making sure that we know what changes have taken place since the last open enrollment. Although I try not to be a stranger. I don't visit accounts only once a year. I try to visit quarterly and certainly call and stop by. But yeah, the accounts we set up are starting on the first of the month after they enroll. So we are doing open enrollments all year long. More in the fall, however, because sometimes we want to be accommodating in the way that we align our open enrollment with the open enrollment of someone's health insurance. So the company we're going to open next has a September 1st start date. So we'll do a short plan year, July and August, and then we'll align in the fall with their open enrollment. Some companies prefer to have their AFLAC open enrollment separate from their health insurance. But again, trying to be accommodating to a business owner is part of our objective when we meet that business owner. How can we be the most helpful?
What are some organizations that you help, and in what capacity?
Marine Industry Association has some charitable events that we can contribute to while we're helping, while we're networking. There's certainly the waterway cleanup. That's very important to me to always be involved in that. I'm always mindful that people shouldn't be littering, but I don't like to call them out, but I'm always mindful of that. And if I can make things cleaner or nicer, that's one thing that I do. Several of our tournaments, tennis tournaments, are for charities, American Heart Association, or benefiting the Kiwanis Club. So any kind of charitable thing that I can do.
So tell us, I have a few more questions, but where is your office located first?
Well, we have an office on Cypress Creek Road and Andrews Avenue in Fort Lauderdale. That's our market office. Stephen and I generally work from our home office, where he takes the lead with all the administrative work in here in our home office. And I'm usually out and about. So if I were to schedule a meeting which the business owner wanted to have in our office, I might encourage them to meet us at our market office. Again, that's on the 10th floor at a nice office on Cypress Creek Road in Andrews.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I'll follow up with how people could reach out to you after a couple more questions. But why should I or someone consider an AFLAC policy if I have no history of cancer in my family?
Right. Well, do we know if it's more hereditary or more environmental? We don't really. People often say, I don't have any cancer in my family, but then they get a diagnosis. Or sometimes it's a loved one in their family who was diagnosed with something, but it was quite a surprise. I've seen that happen in my own family, so it's quite a surprise. When one sees the low rates for the plan and one sees the indemnity amounts that we pay, if it's something they can fit in their budget, I think it's a good thing to have. So again, AFLAC, like most insurance, is helping to guard against risk. And when we stop to think how many people we've helped with putting money in their bank account and giving them peace of mind to breathe, I would not want to be without an AFLAC cancer plan myself. It's helped my family definitely, and we've helped so many people with it.
So tell us how one could learn about an AFLAC cancer policy.
Well, one can phone me or send me an email. I'd be happy to speak to them over the phone, send them product literature, or meet them for a cup of tea and give them the information in person. There are various ways to learn about it. And again, I'm not someone who pressures people. I like to give them all the options. Our cancer policy has 3 levels so that a person can get a quality cancer plan and spend the right amount of money that's consistent with his budget. Some people are very worried about it. I've had people say, I don't want any of the other plans. I just want your Cadillac cancer plan because I'm only worried about that. So that person got the higher end cancer policy. The quality among the levels of our cancer policy is the same, but some people might want to spend a little less or a little more.
So besides work, where else could they get an AFLAC cancer plan? I guess phoning you. Any other way?
Yes, certainly. They could call the 1-800 number or 1-800-99-AFLAC, but Stephen and I like to provide customized personal service. I like to follow up with handwritten thank you notes. I remind them to to let us know if we can be helpful beyond enrolling them. Make sure that I remind them, like the woman I spoke about earlier who just wanted extra protection for cancer. I spoke to her recently and said, don't forget that policy pays you $100 each year when you get a cancer screening, and early detection is important. So let me know when you get a mammogram, or let me know when you have a well woman visit so I can help you file that claim. Claims don't expire, which is nice, but sometimes people put them off.
My last couple of questions probably should have been the first questions.
What are they?
Most people actually, their number one question is how much, what does it cost, and all this. But what does an Aflac cancer policy cost?
Again, that depends on the level. A person could pay between $25 and $50 a month for a cancer plan. It ranges. And when we have an opportunity to sit with a person, we ask them, what is their budget? So they can get the one that's comfortable for them and their budget.
And can people cover their family members?
Absolutely. People can cover a spouse, and they can cover their children up to age 26. So that's a nice thing too, age 26 for children. And there's no charge for children on Aflac's cancer policy, which is nice.
Yeah. All right. Now, do you have a preferred method where people could reach out to you if they want further information? Email, text, website, Morse code, fire by way of smoke signals,
carrier pigeon. Our email is fine. My mobile phone is fine. My mobile phone is 954-609-5402. My email address is veronica_buckingham@us.aflac.com. I would be happy to receive communications in either of those methods. I'd like to get back to people quickly.
Yeah. If you could send out the carrier duck to people's houses to communicate, that would be interesting. What other last thoughts do you have before we do a wrap up?
The same as my first thought. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Paul. I'm so glad about it, and I'm so glad we are friends, and your wife Sarah is a dear friend. Over the years we've become so close, and this is a really nice opportunity and the first time I've been a guest on a podcast. So I'm so
hopefully
grateful.
I give you a good lead into wanting to do future podcasts as well, since we'll tag each other on LinkedIn, YouTube, and X, as Twitter used to be called. Let's see. So as a wrap up, we've been talking to Veronica Buckingham here on the OMG Talk show, or omgtalk.com, or Small Business Owner Podcast for workaholic professionals, small business owners, and whiz-bang entrepreneurs and all the rest of theirs. We talked about where she was born and raised. She told us about her family and upbringing and education. She told us about her hobbies and activities that she's interested in. Maybe you could relate a little bit to Veronica, and she delved into her wedding or marriage and children. Sounds like a TV show or sitcom, where she lives and where her family lives. She spoke about her work history and how she became an Aflac representative and how long she has been representing Aflac. She told us about whether Aflac is a 9-to-5 career or not. Definitely a big no for that. Has an Aflac been around since the 90s? That's when the duck commercial started. And what did they do before they had this duck? Interesting. I learned that Aflac actually stands for something. Can you say again what it stands for?
American Family Life Assurance Company out of Columbus, Georgia. Right. American, not insurance, but Aflac Assurance.
And somebody thought that was so long, they got so frustrated, and they thought it sounded like a duck in the 90s. Their rebranding was reborn. And what motivates her, they love, enjoy helping people. And she told us about how it helps policyholders. And she also told us that it's very different than health insurance. And a typical day of work for her, I imagine no day is really typical. Every situation is different. She told us that at least 25% of her time as a small business owner, she networks with other small business owners at in-person networking events, maybe virtual as well. You're always invited to our in-person networking event that meets every Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning at an assisted living community called Inspired Living. But actually, I think they just had a name change. But we'll tell you where the address is if you're free on any Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock to meet 5 to 10 or more business owners in various different categories. What else? You could also come the first Thursday of the month in West Palm Beach and meet Sherry and Bruce. They're enrolled agents, and they have other business owners there meet in the West Palm area. And they're also going to start up now in the summer a breakfast meeting at 8 to 9 on another Thursday beside the first Thursday. What else? She told us about the enrollment period is very different than health insurance, and she talked about the organizations she loves to help and in what capacity and where her office is located. I think that wraps up everything we talked about. Thank you so much for Veronica for being here. Maybe I'll give you one last thought, and then I'll give the last word to Tony, who does our voiceovers in the intro and outro of our podcast. Any last thoughts, or I'll wrap up?
Well, since it's Memorial Day weekend, I have my flag pin on, and I want to say thank you to all of those people who gave their lives for us here in the United States of America. And I wish everyone a safe and happy and healthy Memorial Day weekend. And thank you again, Paul. This was wonderful.
Yes, I do make a note too to take a moment to remember the fallen who gave the ultimate sacrifice this Memorial Day weekend, and say hello to your hubby as well. And I'll play the outro. And don't go away after I play the outro. We'll chit chat after we take us off from going live.
Roger that.
Thank you so much for being here, Veronica.
Thank you.
And hold on, I'll play the outro. Thanks for listening. Join us again for another OMG podcast.